Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of CS Cyber. I'm Chad.
I'm Sean.
And today we're on episode 4 of our NIST 800-171 series, and we're going to be talking about audit and accountability.
Man, these episodes are super exciting.
Oh, yeah. And we only have 10 more to go.
Yeah,
so
all right.
Stick with us.
Awesome. Yeah, right. Here we go.
So let's just kind of jump in, right? So audit and accountability, what is this about, right? It's really about tracking activities, ensuring transparency, and holding individuals accountable for their actions on the network, right? So how do you do that? What's maybe step one of that, right? So logging.
Yeah.
You got to have some logging on your network, right? So it really focuses on establishing, maintaining, and protecting records of system activity, right? So that's really important, right? You just can't collect these, but you have to safeguard them. You have to keep them from being altered. And they're really your source of truth in your environment, right?
Correct. Devil's in the details too. There's a lot of stuff inside this control set that provides detail of what needs to be logged and how. And I'll tell you, in my experience, doing responses in the field, this gets butchered a lot, meaning that organizations do not log right, if at all.
Yeah, I'd say that's 100% accurate. I mean, so NIST actually has another document that talks about logging that will tell you like the level to which you need to audit, right? So the what, the where, the when, the how, like all of these things, right? So, I mean, you may be doing, to your point, maybe a portion of that, but not really to a level of detail.
Correct.
So, I mean, this control family has 9 different subcontrols in it. So you want to take a look at those. There's, multifaceted here. But really effective audit practices enable an organization to track and monitor user activity, ensure that only authorized individuals are accessing the sensitive information or the right information, maintain evidence trails for forensic investigations, right? I mean, that's something that if we come into an IR situation and nobody's logging, that's tough. Like, you're never going to find out what happened, really. You're just starting over, right? So
yeah, that's
recovery efforts.
That's one of the toughest ones too, is, to have to look at somebody and say, I'm sorry, we don't have enough information to find out who, what, when, where, why, and how.
Right. So, and then it supports internal accountability, for holding individuals accountable for their actions on the environment. So some key requirements of this, audit records, you need to generate and maintain detailed audit logs of system activity. Audit log protections, you need to safeguard those logs, make sure they're not being modified or changed. And you got to review the logs, right? Or have some sort of mechanism to review the logs and alert you or take some sort of action, right? So reviewing the logs is a very important component of this control family. And
likely the most difficult one to do.
And likely the most difficult one to do, right? Because, I mean, to that point, a single user can generate a ton of logs, and you're never going to be able to pick through them, right? So having something in place to assist with that is really key. So, just some practical examples of audit and accountability mechanisms. Implement central logging, using security information like a SIEM tool, security information and event management, which we'll get into here in a little bit, and then establishing audit trails for business or for critical business processes to help identify the actual application, right? So many people don't really understand the data flows within their company, right? They may have a network diagram, but they don't really understand how data goes from one system to the next and the outputs and the inputs. So understanding that in your environment is really key here. So I want to let's just kind of jump down into like the products that can help, right? Let's just kind of go through the good, better, best. So I always, preface this, depending on the size of your organization and the complexity there's free tools like Logarithm has a community edition that will kind of help you get started with log collection. There's a lot of logging built into, Windows and things like that you can leverage. A better would be like a Splunk, right? I think Cisco, you mentioned that Cisco had just bought them. So
Correct.
That's probably going to get some integrations and some support.
Yep.
And then really the best solution is a SIEM and SOAR combo where, you're taking in those logs, you're analyzing those logs, and then you take some sort of action, right? So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we use a tool called SecureOnyx, and that is integrated into our platform. So it's got integration hooks down the road. So it can do the default stuff, which is taking like firewall logs and switches and those types of things. But then it has other integrations. So we can integrate with other firewalls. We can take logs from Office 365. We can take Okta logs. And really, there's, I don't know, I guess it's kind of unlimited with the amount of logs that you can ingest into the platform. Mail monitoring tools like Iron Scales and Perception Point, which was just recently acquired by Fortinet. So, but to the point, like if you're at that point and you get to that type of solution, there's a lot of work that goes into managing a SIEM, right? So that's why we don't just manage SIEMs, because there's not a lot of value in that. There's some, but not a lot. It's a SIEM connected to, like you said, like a SOAR or security tool or a SOC.
Right. So, I mean, like to your point, right? I mean, there's not a lot of value in managing a SIEM if all of it's doing is a repository for your logs, right? I mean, so. Right.
I mean, if you're going to do that, honestly, I would stick with a logarithm or there used to be a SolarWinds tool called Kiwi. It may still be out there. If you're just going to collect logs but not analyze them, I would just stick with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, this isn't a set it and forget it type thing.
No.
This is a job, and this can be quite labor intensive or hours intensive to go through these. So, some common challenges, is if you're going to go with one of those free editions, is ensuring adequate storage. On-prem, off-prem. I mean, you can blow up a AWS storage bucket or your internal file share pretty quick if you're just
easily
taking logs, right? And let's talk about this, right? So you can't just keep logs for 2 weeks. That's not really going to do you any good, right? So we're talking about not years. Well, potentially years, yeah. But I mean, at least to a level where you can go back and do some sort of forensics investigation, right? 30, 90, 6 months, a year, 5 years.
Well, some important context there. Yes, you're correct. There's like temperature degrees of this. So there's like hot storage, warm storage, cold storage. So maybe you have hot storage that's 30 days. So that's readily available, instantly available, versus something like warm and cold, right?
You're already kicking it up a notch and making it more complicated. Right?
I know.
So, but you're right.
But that's important context in your storage conversation, because if you are looking at SIEM and the amount of logs and going, dang, like in order for me to keep like 5 years of active logs in an S3 bucket, right, my AWS costs are going to be very high, right? So that's why there's a lot of things that you can do, and specifically inside our platform, we can call out that cold storage. That cold storage is very cheap storage.
Right.
So we kind of like compartmentalize and put it away, and then we can thaw it if we need it. Right. Generally, though, I'd say 5 years. I'd say just bank on 5 years, because that's kind of where the trend is going.
Okay. Another common challenge is avoiding gaps, right? So not only do you have to review the logs, but you have to make sure that the logs are still flowing, right? Like you don't have a miss, you don't have a gap. How long would that take somebody to realize if they were doing that manually, right? I mean, it may be 30 days, 60 days before, like, oh, we're not getting our domain controller logs. That sucks.
Yeah. And when you'll notice that?
After the logs have rolled over.
Right, during your incident response.
Exactly.
Let's go get the AD logs. Ah, crap, they haven't been coming to us for the last 30 days.
Yeah,
that's bad.
All right, and so let's just cover some of the key policies. So you'll need a policy defining the scope and context of the audit log activities, procedures for reviewing audit logs and responding to detected anomalies, like how you're going to handle those, and then access or guidelines for granting access or revoking access from logs. So kind of onboarding, offboarding process. So yeah, I think that's. Do you have anything else to add to today's episode?
No, it's one of the most boring ones, but one of the most, and it's critical. There's just been too many instances where logging was just not available, and that's unfortunate. So
yeah, and I think this is one of the more difficult ones to implement because it's not just a quick fix or
no, it's not.
There's a lot to this. So if you're going down this path and you're going down the NIST 800-171 journey with us, start thinking about this specifically, how you're going to keep your logs, how you're going to review your logs, how you're going to protect your logs. So
yeah, sounds good.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time.
Yep.
Thanks.
See you next time.